right. Thanking God, as usual, for yet another chance to talk about his word. Let's call Jeremiah chapter 28, the last word. And even though that is not a quote that comes out of the chapter, it extends from verse 11, which probably caught my attention more than any other, as it simply says, Jeremiah went his way, in this chapter that starts out in verses 1 through 4, stating that in the beginning of the reign of King Zedekiah, Hananiah the prophet responded to Jeremiah's prophecy from chapter 27 regarding the yoke and the straps, representing the way in which Judah would survive by submitting to the reign of Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. Hananiah is going to respond that no, indeed, God has broken the hold of Babylon over Israel or Judah, and he is going to return that which has been already deported or taken off into captivity. He's going to say within 2 years, the exiles, the goods carted off, and even King Jehoiachin, which is not going to be referred to by that name in this chapter, but historically, it's going to seem super likely, if not absolutely certain, that that's who it is. Either way, he's saying that the exiles, the goods, and the king are going to be back in Judah. And so nobody has to worry about a thing, especially the words of Jeremiah, my ad lib. But verses 5 through 9 are going to go on to say that Jeremiah will respond, amen, meaning let it be so. That's kind of, I think, the literal meaning of amen. Not that it's going to happen, but it seems that Jeremiah is saying, God willing, let it be so. However, the reality is God has given a different word. And so, like we said in verses 5 through 9, he's going to give that amen and say, but if there is genuinely going to be peace over those exiles, let it actually happen in that 2-year window. Otherwise, once again, we have the sign that we're dealing with a false prophet. At which point, Hananiah is in verses 10 and 11 going to physically break the yoke that Jeremiah used to prophecy in the last chapter, re-emphasizing or doubling down on his prophecy that within 2 years, all of those things, the exiles, the goods, and the king would return to Jerusalem. At which point, verse 11 will say, Jeremiah went his way. Verses 12 through 16, noting that, however, the word of the Lord came to him again, saying that those bars that Hananiah had broken, those bars of wood, I think it was, they've now turned to bars of iron, understanding that Hananiah is going to be called out by Jeremiah literally as being a false prophet, and not just being a false prophet, but one with whom God is about to deal with directly, saying that within a year, Hananiah would be dead as a consequence of his false prophecy and the fact that he not only prophesied falsely, but he actually convinced the people to believe a lie, thus leading them into an even more harsh captivity. Verse 17 concluding the chapter by saying, as a result of his false prophecy, Hananiah indeed died by the end of that year, actually in the 7th month of that same year. His death reminding me that even though he got the last word in the original confrontation with Jeremiah, that last word didn't matter as much as the quality of what it was that he was saying, understanding that what he was saying was fundamentally untrue, which beyond Hananiah and Jeremiah reminded me of the way that in life, as much as our egos can crave the last word, character is what tends to crave truth, which is one of the reasons why the word over and over, going back before Jeremiah to Isaiah to David, to the very beginnings of the story of the Bible, is encouraging us to allow God to perfect our character, often described in the word as our integrity. Understanding that the ego itself is not a bad thing. It simply means the self. However, an excessive need to feed the ego can manifest itself in ways that go far beyond needing the last word and extend into things like an excessive need to control situations or to have praise or to win, especially an excessive need to win at the expense of others. Understanding that here, Hananiah simply seemed to be obsessed with the need to defeat the word of Jeremiah. However, just the need or the excessive need to defeat Jeremiah blinded him to the consequences of the fact that he was stretching the truth in order to get his win. Consequences that worsened the situation of those who believed him and ultimately made his win personally worthless.